Hi, I'm here with Leah Darrow. Leah, who was on the show. Hi, we were on the show the other night, and I wanted to ask you just some follow-up questions. Maybe first, if you give us a thumbnail of your story, thumbnail sketch.
Well, I was born and raised Catholic, but during high school and college, I fell away from that, fell away from the practice of it, and slowly began that slow fade just away from it, and really started embracing the culture and embracing everything that it had provided for me, and really thought that that would make me happy, and I would experience love and all those great things from that. And I tried really hard at attaining happiness and attaining love from that. And then, of course, I have a love for fashion, and I found myself on the reality TV show America's Next Top Model. And after I was eliminated, I stayed in New York and modeled. And it was actually during a big photo shoot there in New York that I had this moment where I realized, after about spending many years away from the faith, like I had mentioned, that I just couldn't do this anymore. It was all coming down, and my heart was telling me something that I think my head was trying to pull away from so many times before, and I just had to realize the truth. And I came back.
Was it I know on the show you described it as a pretty sudden moment, but was it a growing dissatisfaction before that? Or was it really just a sudden change?
It was definitely a growing dissatisfaction, and I think that was the biggest problem. I became more and more dissatisfied with the culture of what it was offering me. But instead of turning towards the church, turning towards God and Christ, I kept seeking the culture more and in deeper ways, thinking, okay, well, I just need more of it to become happier, more of it. So I went deeper and deeper into it. So it was a growing dissatisfaction, but it also unfortunately led for me into a deeper dissatisfaction. And that led to that moment at that photo shoot of realizing I've had enough. And I realized that I had been lied to. And I thought that, I don't know, for whatever reason, I guess I believed it slowly that, they cared about me, that they loved me in some way, I guess, but they don't. And I had been lied to by this culture, and I finally realized that I can't do this anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you describe, the lies of the culture? How does it entice us?
Oh, well, it's very, all that glitters is not gold, obviously, but it sure does look good, doesn't it? And I think that's what they do. They do a fantastic marketing job of making everything of what they're selling look like that's happiness and look like that's what we want. But we all know when we are, going into it that we realize it's not working. And we keep thinking, well, we must not be doing it right, so we must just try harder at it. But that's not the point. The fact is that was never meant to make us happy.
Right. How would you describe, especially the pressure on young women today to look good? How would you describe that pressure and the lie of that?
Well, there's definitely a pressure, I think, for perfection, and that's the problem with that. But because I think that with culture today, we see perfection within a woman. It's all about her body. We never talk about perfection in charity, perfection in love, perfection in virtue. It's always perfection of the body. And unfortunately, it's not just the body, the human body, it's body parts. So we're taking the human person, and now we're just human parts. So the human dignity is really being destroyed at a base level, even in this culture of fashion, culture of entertainment. And so it's attractive for girls in a sense because they think, oh, I'm going to look good, I'm going to feel accepted. And they have these, a lot of times these body image issues and problems like that, and they think that this is going to make them feel better. But we all know it doesn't. What they're doing is, and I know this for a fact, what I was doing was not end up making me feel better at the day's end.
Right. And it seems like, too, like in the media, it's a very controlled presentation of certain people, and, it comes down to body parts, right? And they just show you, very sculpted camera angles and, precise, and it's not real, right?
No.
You don't get a real vision of the total person.
No, these are, we are all broken people, and I think that, first off, almost every single picture that you're ever going to see in a magazine is photoshopped. I mean, we have to look at the truth of this.
Right.
So the image that a girl is looking at of saying, I want to look like that, well, it's impossible because she doesn't even look like that. So that's a good thing to look at that right there. And first off, I'd really encourage girls, a practical step of stepping away from the culture, battling the culture, is first to realize this is our culture. This is the culture of Christ that he founded over 2,000 years ago when he was on that cross. This isn't their culture. This is our game. They're the visitors. This is home field advantage here, and we need to fight that. And they need to kind of realize that we can make demands of this. To put down the fashion magazines. We know it looks good. We don't need them telling us what they want us to buy, because that's what it is. That's not fashion influence. They're demanding us to buy their products by buying those magazines. And we shouldn't be buying the magazines that have celebrity gossip all over it. This is brokenness splattered across pages, and we really shouldn't be entertaining ourselves by other people's sadness.
Right. I also wanted to ask you, what is the Christian vision of love? What does real love look like? You're talking about seeking maybe like false idols or images of that love that's really not fulfilling. What is real love?
It's eternal and it's authentic. It's forever. You know what every girl wants. When I talk in Chastity Talks about this, I joke about the whole thing of I don't do fear tactics. I don't have a face for fear. I don't have a body frame for fear. I can't really scare many people with anything. But what I do know is I know the heart, and I know especially the feminine heart. So I reach out to people on that level in Chastity Talks. The fact that what every girl wants, especially if they're called for the vocation of marriage, if for some wonderful man to get down on a knee one day and say, I want to give you my forever, and I think you are worth it, and I want to be your forever. That's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear, I want to be your 2-week love.
Right.
We don't want that. We want a forever love.
Right.
And that's what we deserve. And so that's the authentic love that I'm selling. That's the love of Jesus Christ. You know, and that's what's attractive about it, is because we want that. And to embrace a forever love, it demands temperance. It demands virtue. And taking into control our bodies, our passions, realizing that God has given us a body with all these things and feelings that are okay and fine, but to check them in place until the right time and place.
How you talk also about putting God first as being the source of that forever love, right?
Yeah.
Practically, what does that look like, putting God first?
Well, always to know that Christ will always fulfill us more than any other person will. Another man, another woman, another friend, it doesn't matter. But Christ's love, his salvific love, is something that will always fulfill us greater and deeper than anything else can on this earth. So we have to go there to become full. If we choose other people to fill us in that love, to feel fulfilled, to feel like we feel okay, if we have to pick up the phone every single time we have a problem, we need to realize that might be a problem within us, that we need to just calm ourselves and look to Christ and say, Lord, how can you fix this? Can you help me? And that's putting Christ first always in our life. It's waking up every morning saying, thank you for giving me this day. I didn't even deserve it. I didn't even know I was going to have it. It's always putting Christ first and allowing him to have that first place in your life. And then everyone else can come second. But it all falls into place.
Right. And practically, what do you do like to maintain your spiritual life? What are some of your habits of prayer and things?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love Our Lady. I love, so I always say my daily rosary every day. I attend Mass every morning. I have a wonderful schedule in my job of evangelization, so I can afford that. So attending Mass every day for me is something that I do. I spend an hour of adoration every day, and I have a rosary every day. The rosary I spend every day and the hour of adoration I spend every day is offered up for many different intentions, but usually for all the souls that I have worked with and all the souls that I will work with, for the strength to get me through this life, for reparation for my past sins, for the sins that I made that day, and for just the thankfulness that God gives me his love, that gives me his life. The celebration of the Mass still blows me away every morning. Every morning, just being there, being like, you did this for little old Leah. All of that. But those three things every day, Mass, adoration, and the rosary, that's my staple. If I don't do that, things don't work. I notice that if I miss a day, if I miss a week, if something happens and I've gone off track, I look back and I realize, oh my gosh, that's it. You left behind the key ingredient. And things just start making sense. I don't have that clarity in my mind. I start getting confused. I start looking at things in culture a little differently, being like, oh, well, maybe I should do that. And I'm like, what am I thinking? So I have to always keep myself in track. Just because we have a reversion to the faith or convert to the faith does not mean it's all over. Right. It's a, conversion is a wonderful thing, but it's a daily thing. Every day I pray for another conversion to become even more converted to Christ, more closer to Him.
Could you talk about the Mass and Adoration? What inspired you to do that? Did somebody tell you about it? Did you see it witnessed by a friend? Or?
Yeah, well, my Aunt Jan had always gone to daily Mass, and she's been a very big spiritual giant in my life. She's really helped me. She was always there even in my life of sin when I was really kind of screwing up and thinking everything was okay. She just stuck with me through the whole time, and she would send me spiritual books. I would never read them, but she would send them, and she would still tell me she loved me, kept up communication. And I noticed she always went to daily Mass, and it was just something after my conversion I realized I want to be like that. She has something I don't have, and I want it. And I think maybe if I do that, I could get it. And I realized that was a huge thing. And then the Hour of Adoration was inspired to me by Fulton Sheen, Archbishop Fulton Sheen.
How long have you been doing the Adoration? How many?
I've been doing the Hour of Adoration, oh gosh, almost for a year now. Almost a year. It'll be a year in May that I've started that.
What have you seen? What have you noticed as a fruit of that you say, hey, something changed in my life due to that?
There is just absolute more joy and peace. Each day I feel like I'm not so worried about all these other things. Going to Adoration is something to where at first I thought, how can I get through 60 minutes? 60 whole minutes. How am I going to keep my attention on Christ the whole time?
I'm a model. How could I think?
Do I even think? How could I do this, So it started out like that, but then as the time went on, I'm literally in the car excited. And before I look at my watch, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 2.5 hours. Did I just spend 2.5 hours? I couldn't believe it. And so I just realized I would sit there and talk, and it just became these conversations. And the more and more I spent with Jesus, the more I was He was starting to just help me understand Him more, understand His love for me more, understand His love for His children more, and to help me gather strength for the battle that I come across when I go out there and speak.
How about have you, like, reaching out to your friends? Do you still have friends that are still in the modeling industry and things that you still keep in contact with?
Well, a lot of the friends from my past life I do not keep in contact with anymore. When I made that decision to move away from that life, many of those friends were very set on that life, and that left a barrier between us. And that was one that I was very, okay with, I guess. I love them. I pray for them. I wish them the best, which is Christ. I would hope that they find that soon. Hope maybe they're doing that now without even me knowing. But I don't keep in contact with a lot of them. There have been some new friends that I've made who are in the modeling industry. I encourage them to be very careful. Encourage their parents to always be involved. It's a scary business. It's not one that I would recommend. And to be very careful with it. You can do it in a Christian way, but with much diligence, and you have to be scrupulous to make sure that you are always keeping in mind Christian modesty.
Now, what is some of your I don't want to say teachings, but what advice do you give about modesty? What do you usually tell, especially young women, about how to dress modestly?
Well, there are some obvious things. I always tell, ladies that we don't have to show all of our woman parts to prove to the world that we're a woman. Like, they know we're women. We don't have to show it all, Right. So we need to keep things covered that we know should be covered. There are things that are very obvious, whenever we're picking out outfits, to make sure that you, this is a very girly thing, but just to make sure that you move in the outfit so that when you are bending over and picking up your purse, that you're not falling out somewhere, okay? And that when you're sitting down in a seat, that your skirt's not way high up. These things can be, these situations can be easily avoided if you just take a little bit more time in the dressing room, making sure that this is really the outfit that's going to promote the most dignity of who you are as a woman of God.
Can you talk about, I know you have a love for fashion still, talk about how we should view fashion. What is the purpose of looking nice. How does that fit into our Christianity?
Yeah, well, I think that's a little bit a part of the new evangelization that John Paul II really kind of took from the Second Vatican Council and flourished in his papacy, was that, this is Catholicism, and I believe as Mother Teresa said something that holiness should always be done with a smile, something to that regard, I believe. And that's what it is. And, we should, wearing, extremely dowdy clothes on purpose and, and doing this for as a woman, at the same time, that could be an extreme case of maybe not promoting the most dignified manner for a woman. That could be debated in that way. And so we want to make sure that we are showcasing the beauty of God's creation. I mean, God created woman in a very special way. I mean, it's kind of funny, but like you see a woman's leg and you see a man's leg and what's beautiful or not, right? You see a hairy man's leg and a nice soft woman's leg and you're like, that's a beautiful shin, And we're just talking about a shin here. God made a woman just beautiful.
I know Jason Everett points that out,
yes,
who you work with in his book, and I thought it was a great point that women image the beauty of God in a special way. We both have equal dignity, but we both image God in different ways, and I think that's an important point to recognize that young women especially have this desire to manifest this beauty. They're sensitive to, and they certainly possess. So you want to cultivate that and respect that in a healthy way and live that out, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, because if we don't recognize that call, we're not really speaking to women if we're talking about modesty.
And we're allowing the culture to speak for fashion and us to say, well, just find an old refrigerator box, cut a hole for your head and 2 for your arms and stick it through it and walk to adoration. That's not it, That is not what we are called to do as well. We're called to be respectful of the body God gave us because this is truly a temple, but this is a beautiful temple and it's the temple of God. And so if we can do this in a way that's also showcasing its innate beauty of God's creation, a flower, we don't hide the flower when it's growing and say, you're just too good, it's making the trees look bad. I'm sorry, roses. We have to snip you all and bury you. No, in fact, we plant them. We put them in certain places because they're gorgeous. They're beautiful right there. But the oak tree, as big and powerful as it is still fantastic. It's all together. And so women with their beauty done in the most dignified way, showing their dignity, embracing their feminine genius as well, that genius of the heart that lets us know our vocation is love. That can all be through dress. It really can. Yeah.
How would you describe that feminine genius? You're out there, you're a chastity speaker, you might be an author here one day too. You're bringing your gifts as a woman to this battle for chastity and modesty. How would you describe the feminine genius?
I think the feminine genius is really the genius of the heart. This is something within it's the feminine heart fully embraced in love of God. It explodes with His love to each and every person. It always keeps in mind God and shares that with the woman's neighbor. And our neighbor is every single person our heart reaches out to. Not our hands, but our heart. Because our neighbor has got to be more than just who we see. It's got to be more than who we can just write a letter to. And the vocation of a woman, I think it's author Alice von Hildebrand who says the vocation of the woman is to love. And of course, Saint Therese of Lisieux, doctor of the church, sweet little Therese, also said that too when she was finding out her vocation. Before she even entered, the Carmelite monastery, she was sitting there, I believe, before adoration, and she realized, Jesus, I realize my vocation is to love. This is my vocation. And she went out at that moment and changed everything. She realized her feminine genius matured at that moment. And she realized something so deep within her. This is it. It's a call to action. It's a call to action in our culture in a very particular way that women can do.
All right, well, thank you so much for being on the show and talking with us.
Thank you, Father.